People are uncomfortable around you. Not because you're aggressive, not because you're loud, not because you're trying to intimidate anyone. You're actually quiet, reserved. You don't say much. But when you do speak, people pause. They listen differently. They adjust. And after you leave, they talk about you. Not what you said, but the feeling you gave them. Uncomfortable, unsettled, like you saw something they didn't want you to see. They call you intense, intimidating, too serious, dangerous even. And you don't understand why, because you're not doing anything to them. You're just being yourself. But here's what they're actually responding to. It's not danger they're feeling. It's intelligence they can't control. And people fear what they can't control. This channel is for the man who stayed strong when no one noticed, the man who carried responsibility quietly and slowly disappeared. Here, strength is questioned, silence is exposed, and the cost of being the strong one is finally spoken out loud. Let me show you why high intelligence makes people uncomfortable, what they're actually afraid of, and why being called dangerous is not the insult they think it is. Here's what's actually happening when people call you dangerous. You see patterns they don't see.
You connect dots they can't connect. You ask questions they didn't think to ask. And that visibility, that ability to see what others miss, that makes you unpredictable to them. And unpredictable equals danger in their minds. Most people operate on scripts, social scripts, conversational scripts, behavioral scripts. They know what to expect, they know what to say, they know how to navigate interactions because everyone follows the same patterns. But you don't follow the scripts. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you see the script, you see the performance, you see the game everyone's playing, and you can't unsee it. So when someone performs small talk, you see it as performance. When someone uses flattery, you see the manipulation underneath. When someone tells a story, you see what they're not saying more clearly than what they are. And that awareness, that ability to see beneath the surface, it shows in your eyes, in your responses, in the way you don't react the way they expect you to. And people can feel that you're seeing something they don't want seen, so they get uncomfortable, and they call that discomfort danger. Here's what high intelligence actually does in social situations. It creates distance.
Because you're processing information at a different speed, at a different depth than most people around you. While they're having a surface conversation, you're 3 layers deeper, analyzing subtext, motivation, patterns, inconsistencies. While they're reacting emotionally, you're observing the reaction and understanding what caused it. While they're in the moment, you're seeing how this moment connects to every other moment. And that distance, that processing depth, it makes you seem detached, cold, calculating, like you're analyzing them instead of connecting with them. And you are analyzing them, not maliciously, just automatically. Your brain doesn't turn off. It's always seeing, always processing, always connecting. And people can feel when they're being seen that clearly. Most people don't want to be seen that clearly. They want to be seen as they present themselves. They want their performance to be accepted at face value. They want the social scripts to work. But you see through the performance. You see the insecurity underneath the confidence. You see the manipulation underneath the charm. You see the fear underneath the aggression. And when people realize you see them that clearly, they have 2 options. They can be honest, which is terrifying, or they can call you dangerous and keep their distance. Most choose distance. Here's what people are actually afraid of when they're around high intelligence. They're afraid of being exposed, not publicly, but to themselves. Because when you see them clearly, it forces them to see themselves clearly, and most people are running from that clarity. You ask questions that make them confront things they've been avoiding. You notice contradictions they've been ignoring. You see patterns they've been denying, and that visibility is uncomfortable. So they project that discomfort onto you. They say you're too intense, too serious, too analytical. They say you make them nervous. They say there's something off about you. But what's actually off is that you're not playing the game they need you to play. You're not accepting the performance. You're not following the script. And that makes you unpredictable. And unpredictable people with high intelligence are the most threatening kind, because they can see the game, They can play the game if they want to, but they choose not to. And that choice, that refusal to participate in collective performance, that's what makes you dangerous. Here's what this actually looks like in your life. In conversations, you don't fill silence with noise. You're comfortable with pauses. You think before you speak. And that pause, that thinking, it makes people nervous because they don't know what you're thinking. When someone tells you something, you don't immediately agree or disagree. You consider it, you ask questions, you look for holes in the logic, and that consideration feels like judgment to them, even when it's not. When someone tries to manipulate you, even subtle social manipulation, you see it, and your lack of reaction to their manipulation exposes it, and they feel caught even though you didn't say anything. When someone performs emotion to get a reaction, you see the performance, and you don't give them the reaction they're fishing for, and that non-reaction makes them feel powerless. This is why people who are used to controlling social situations through charm, manipulation, or emotional performance find you threatening, because their tools don't work on you. You're not swayed by flattery. You're not intimidated by aggression. You're not convinced by emotional appeals. You're not impressed by status. You see the tactic, and seeing the tactic makes it ineffective. And when people's social tools don't work, they don't know how to interact with you.
So they avoid you, or they call you dangerous. Here's the paradox of high intelligence in social settings. The smarter you are, the more you see. The more you see, the less you can participate in collective delusion. The less you participate, the more isolated you become. Because most social bonding happens through shared illusions, shared beliefs that aren't questioned, shared performances that aren't examined, shared scripts that everyone follows. But you can't not see. You can't turn off the pattern recognition. You can't pretend the performance is real when you see it so clearly. So you end up on the outside of most social groups, watching the game you can't make yourself play. And people interpret that outsider position as superiority, as arrogance, as judgment, when really it's just incompatibility. You're operating at a different frequency, and most people can't hear it. Here's what being called dangerous actually means. It means you're perceptive enough to see what people are hiding, smart enough to ask questions they don't want to answer, aware enough to not be easily manipulated, strong enough to be comfortable with silence. And in a world where most people are performing, hiding, manipulating, and filling every silence with noise, that makes you an outlier.
And outliers are always labeled as threats. But you're not a threat. You're just inconvenient to people who need you to play along with collective fiction. Here's what you need to understand about this dynamic. Being called dangerous by mediocre people is not an insult. It's confirmation that you're seeing clearly while they are choosing blindness. The people who are comfortable around you, the ones who don't call you intense or intimidating, those are the people who are also seeing clearly. Those are the people who don't need you to pretend. Those are your people. Everyone else, the ones who find you uncomfortable, the ones who call you dangerous, they're not your people. And trying to make them comfortable by dumbing yourself down, by playing the game you see through, by pretending you don't see what you see, that will destroy you. Because the cost of being palatable to people who fear intelligence is your intelligence, and that cost is too high. You have a choice. You can make yourself smaller to make others comfortable. You can pretend you don't see patterns. You can play the social games even though you see them as games. You can perform stupidity to avoid being called dangerous. Or you can accept that high intelligence comes with isolation, that seeing clearly means standing outside, that being perceptive makes you uncomfortable to people who are hiding.
And you can find the few people who don't fear clarity. Most highly intelligent people spend their lives trying to fit in, trying to be less intense, trying to be more normal, trying to make people comfortable. And they succeed at making people comfortable, but they fail at being themselves, and that failure costs them everything. The hero's journey isn't about fitting in, it's about accepting that you don't. It's about understanding that being seen as dangerous by people who fear truth is not a character flaw. It's evidence that you're seeing what they refuse to see and refusing to participate in their blindness. They see you as dangerous? Good. Let them.
Because the alternative is making yourself safe by becoming blind. And blindness is not safety, it's just comfortable ignorance. You're not too intense, they're too comfortable with superficiality. You're not too serious, they're too invested in pretending everything is fine. You're not too analytical, they're too afraid of what analysis reveals. The problem isn't your intelligence, the problem is their fear of it. Stop trying to make people comfortable with your intelligence. Find people who are comfortable with their own. Those are the only people worth your energy. Being called dangerous is not the problem.